Welcome to another edition of the Committed 100 Ministry Group, where we are 100% committed to teaching the Bible to those who are 100% committed to learn. And today we're going to continue in our verse by verse study of the book of Proverbs. And we're currently in the 17th chapter of Proverbs and just looking at the wisdom of God in the life of the worshiper of God. All kinds of wonderful, life changing, life directing, gold brick nuggets worth of wisdom that we would apply ourselves to it, which we are commanded to do and should do anyway. Without a commandment, it just makes sense for the worshiper of God to want to follow the wisdom of God. It'll make a huge difference, not only in our lives individually, but collectively, in how we see the world itself and how we see our life in it. There will be no Committed 100 tomorrow. Again, I have to go to Corona and have some VA testing, so I will not be here tomorrow. But Lord willing, Wednesday we will resume in the book of Acts and then Mark and then back to our study in Galatians on daylight. All right, Proverbs 17, we left off at verse 6. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers. And we've already seen in chapter 16, verse 31, that the gray head is a crown of glory if it be found in righteousness. Just being old and gray-headed with no wisdom makes you what we used to call an old fool. And there are plenty of those around, and they are the ones that we need to be avoiding. We need to go to the people who have walked in righteousness. And it's a blessing to be able to say at this age that God has been beyond gracious to yours truly in allowing me to do anything and everything that he has gifted and purposed in my life for his glory. And I most certainly thank him for it. And that's the kind of life that we should all be striving to make sure that we are in a position where as we get older and our hair becomes, what's left of our hair becomes grayer, that it would be found in righteousness. Now, in this verse, verse 6 of chapter 17, grandchildren are described as a crown of dignity or dignity of older men. And we've seen that children should also praise and honor their father. I mean, that's in both testaments is stated very clearly. That's the first commandment with promise. Okay. The first commandment of promise to the children, if you want to have a life that you can be rewarded by God, is honor your father and mother. Your father is first. You're to honor your father. Okay, that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. Maybe one of the reasons why with so many children, whether they live in the home or outside the home, that their lives is not well with them. The overall life isn't well. It's because they don't respect their father. They don't honor, show reverence and love and honor to your father. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of children now who are adults, their lives are not well with them. And many don't live long at all because they don't honor those who have been a blessing in their lives and an example. Few things are more despicable than a child who is thankless towards their father, who raise him. And I'm not just saying say thanks, Father's Day, give him a tie, all that nonsense. Every day, there should be this kind of love and respect. And that's not something you can hide. Either you have it or you don't. Verse 7, excellent speech becometh not a fool, much less do lying lips a prince. Now, these are contrasts which reveal the true nature of one's heart. The fool boasts of himself in the abundance of words. That's one thing you could always tell about a fool. A fool always says just a lot of verbiage. And if you know anything about their lives, it's not something they could really back up with action. They just like to hear themselves talk and hope that you like to hear them too. Personally, I don't. But the truth of what he is reveals that his boasts are neither fitting nor true of him. They're not real in his life at all. And this word for fool, and there are I believe, four words for fool in the Old Testament, in the book of Proverbs. It's only used 3 times in Proverbs, this particular Hebrew word for fool. And it speaks of a person who lacks spiritual perception and sensitivity. And this kind of person should not boast at all because he or she does not know what he or she is talking about. And then it says lying lips is totally inappropriate for a prince whose office is to be one of integrity, nobility, and dignity, which, of course, it's not really relative in terms of a interpretation for our age. We don't have princes, but an application of the attitude of lying is definitely applicable to any office at all. Because remember, God is the one who establishes government, and we should have leaders that have integrity and nobility and dignity based upon the office that God has placed them in. Or why raise your hand on the Bible and then swear allegiance to God and pledge to him that you're going to do X, Y, and Z when you have no intention of doing it in the first place, and then just proceed to lie because you got elected. Verse 8, and this is very interesting because I think this goes together with verse 7. Now remember, in verse 7, we have a person who is a liar. They're always boasting, and in the context of the prince in particular, you have someone who has some kind of an office, either political, what we would call, maybe even judicial, which is something I think could be more appropriate here, though it could refer to either political or judicial office. And verse 7 speaks of a prince who may be given over to lying. Now look carefully at verse 8. A gift is as a precious stone in the eyes of him that hath it. Whithersoever it turneth, it prospereth. Now, I have been saying forever and a day that when it comes to studying the Bible, you need to have some tools. And I'm not going to get into the list because when we get finished with either whatever study we get finished with first, we're going to spend a great deal of time in the series on how to study the Bible. That's coming up after whichever series is over first. And we're going to spend time there because it's necessary to do it. You need to get the proper tools to be able to interpret words, to be able to understand grammar, to understand history, to understand culture, to understand everything. And when we think of the word gift, sad to say, and I'm going to illustrate it today, that there are many people that misquote a particular passage, which we'll get into in a few moments, where they say a gift makes room for a person. And they think, and I've heard it said throughout the years, that we're talking about spiritual gifts or the giftedness of an individual. And people are clapping and amening, and they have no idea that they don't know what they're talking about. Because unless you understand what the word actually means, then you're going to understand it in your own language. A gift is something you give a person because you like them, or a gift is something that is bestowed upon the individual. We say this person is gifted to do X, Y, and Z. But that's not what it's talking about here at all. And unless you understand what the word actually means, you're going to say something pretty ridiculous. The word gift means a bribe. That's what the word translates into. And a bribe to one who receives them works like a charm. In fact, it's interesting because there is a sense in which we might be able to use that word in English, because sometimes gifts are given to people with an ulterior motive. And so technically that would be considered a bribe. If I wanted to get something from you, okay, and I would send you what I consider a gift. I've seen this in religious circles forever and a day, where I've seen entire so-called ministries change their message because someone gave a particular group a huge sum of money. And the offer of all this money, of course, was given to them, and the so-called leader or leaders, they decided that, well, there may be more coming, and that's implied. There may be more coming if I don't upset this person. And so we might change the message or treat them in a particular way that James says violates what we should be doing in catering to the rich and dismissing the poor, to whom the Lord has chosen more than rich people. So it could be a gift. It could be a bribe, because if it's given with the motive to change you and you receive it and get all happy and stupid about it, well, then in the English sense of the word, yeah, that could be perceived and interpreted as a bribe as well. Now, again, the view here is from the one who receives the bribe. I mean, the bribery prospers the one who receives it. But this is by no means encouraging, nor is it to be sought by the worshiper of God, because it is evil in its effects. We don't need to have someone to bribe us. We don't need to be involved in that. We don't need to have someone to give us something. If the intent is to get us to change, I don't need bribes. I never appreciated. Bribes have been offered in different various ways throughout my entire Christian life of 51 years. And it's always been disgusting because I'm not changing. Now, that should be apparent by now to people who allegedly know me, that there's nothing you could do. There's nothing you could give me. There's nothing you could do for me that's going to get me to change. You might as well give it to somebody else, or not at all. I don't particularly care for it, but a bribe is never to be received because the intents are always evil, and the effects as well. And most of the time this word is used, it refers to one in political leadership. Therefore, I believe what you have here is another reference and warning for those in political office or judicial office about taking bribes. Of course, I don't need to tell you, this is something we can definitely witness, how many of our elected officials are living examples of this word bribe. Bribery everywhere. But that's not for this message. But we do know it's definitely happening. So I want to look at a few examples of the evil effects of taking bribes. So remember, the word gift is not a good thing. Okay, let's translate the word again for what it means. It means a bribe. And then we'll look at some usages and warnings of the evil effects of taking bribes. First, we have Deuteronomy 16:19. And again, it says, "Thou shalt not wrest or twist judgment. Thou shalt not respect persons. neither take a gift, in other words, take a bribe, for a bribe doth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. And that's a warning to those who are righteous, that taking bribes will blind you to do what is right. It will blind you. And it will pervert the words where you should say this. The bribe that's in your hand caused you to twist judgment and to do that which is wrong. And it will show respect to persons. And this should show us something again that I've been saying, but the Bible's been saying before I existed. And that is that all those who were part of the judicial system of Israel were to do their duty in the stead of God. So in other words, you couldn't wrest judgment, whether you couldn't twist it, you couldn't make a judgment for one person that you wouldn't for another for the same crime, whether the person was high in office or just someone who was of low estate. No, the judicial finding is the same for both. And then respecting persons, same thing. You can't respect Johnny Rich any more than you should respect, Peter Paul, or Peter Poor rather. So you can't judge, you can't have respect to person's face, and then you should never take a bribe, because the bribe blinds the eyes of the wise. Even wise people could be affected by the taking of bribes, and righteousness could be perverted because you've been given a bribe. And then here's another, Proverbs 17:23. A wicked man taketh a gift out of the bosom to pervert the ways of judgment. And that speaks of motive. You take a bribe so that you can pervert what's right. Again, there are a lot of people, even in the time this was written, obviously, that took bribes, and they were described as wicked men. You got instructions given to the righteous about not doing it, not taking the bribe, because it will blind you and it will cause you to twist judgment. And here we have a verse that clearly states that the person is wicked who takes a gift, who takes a bribe for the purpose of perverting the way of judgment. This is the verse I referred to earlier, that so many preachers and pastors and whatevers have decided means something that it doesn't mean at all. A man's gift maketh room for him, and that's Proverbs 18:16. I'm going to reserve interpreting till I get there. Proverbs 18:16, a man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. And I've heard pastors since the 70s, so if they've been saying it since the 70s, they've been saying it before I became a believer, that this speaks of a man who is in the ministry, who's gifted in his talent or ability in preaching, and how his gift brings him before great people, which has absolutely nothing to do with what you just said. Nothing. That thought has nothing to do with it at all, because a gift is a bribe. It's a bribe. And of course, a bribe makes room for him. And that same bribe will bring him before great people. And we're going to see that, God willing, when we get there. But know this, it's not a good thing. And it's definitely not talking about something spiritual. And it's definitely not talking about some gifted preacher or person brought before great men. It's not talking about that. It's talking about a person who is able to use bribery to make room for him, to be able to finagle and get involved with great people, because he's able to bribe them. To find the fracture and the weakness in political and judicial offices, and even allegedly in judicial and political offices in the church, like we see today, by taking bribes and gifts and what have you. And I've seen this. I've seen where, and I was told this is nothing but bribery. And I'm going to be done with this. There was a man, and again, I went to a place I didn't really want to go, but God had me learn a valuable lesson there, and that was really what I saw. And he said, what we do is we are a well-known group, still exists today, unfortunately. And but what I'm about ready to share with you doesn't go on with just them, it goes on with a lot of people. And what they do is they take unknown ministries, so-called, and then they link them to them by making them give them a certain amount of money. If you give us a certain amount of money, we will put you, market you, promote you as if you're some great ministry. That's bribery. You're not only taking the bribe, you're asking for bribery money. And so this goes on, and then they have to pay the money back with interest. Now, we're not, our hands are not clean in the so-called ministry, because this kind of bribery goes on forever. You come and you speak the way that we like you, and then we can exploit you to reach your group of people. I've had it happen to me. Yeah, well, Harley Howard, he's not your typical Negro running around hooping and acting a fool. He knows a few things, and we can get him to come and speak to our college and seminary, and eventually, we can get him to yield, and then we can use him to cause him to endorse our ministry by using him to influence others of his race to come and be a part of our fill in the blank. All that is bribery. And when I refused, then they kicked me to the curb, which was perfectly fine. I left them a very serious parting message when I left, however, that I'm not to be bribed. But these things happen. The corruption in the judicial and in the political, and sad to say, the religious arenas are everywhere. Bribery in various types and various sorts are all over the place. 1 Samuel 12, and Samuel said unto all Israel, behold, I have hearkened unto your voice, and all that ye said unto me, and have made a king over you. And now, behold, the king walketh before you, and I am old and gray-headed, and behold, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my childhood unto this day. Behold, here I am, witness against me before the Lord and before his anointed, whose ox have I taken? Whose ass have I taken? Whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or of whose land have I received any bribe, or hand rather, or of whose hand I have received any bribe to blind mine eyes therewith, and I will restore you. Samuel's saying, if anyone can show me where I have done anything wrong in all the years of my life to you, including taking of a bribe, let me know now, and I'll give it back to you. And they said, thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither hast thou taken aught of any man's hand. You're bribed free. You're clean. And he said unto them, the Lord is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, so that ye have not found aught in my hand. And they answered, he is witness. He's saying, God is a witness that, and in all the years that you have known me, I've never defrauded anyone, never did anything wrong to you, never took a bribe, never did anything. You know that. And they said, we know it. He said, God is a witness to all of this, because you need to understand that what you're doing, I've given you what you wanted, because the Lord told me to do it, of course, but you're going to pay the price for having that kind of king against God. All right, that's it. Again, I won't be here tomorrow. Got to take care of some VA business, but Lord willing, I will see you folks on Wednesday for the book of Acts. You can write me here at harleyhowardradio@gmail.com. That's harleyhowardradio@gmail.com.